Hi, welcome to another edition of North Shore Journal. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski, and my guest today is Kerry Valery. Kerry, welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Kerry is with the Red Cross, and I would venture to say that if I asked 100 people what kind of activities they think the Red Cross is involved in, I would bet you 99 out of 100 would say that, among other things, they're involved in blood drives. And so that's fortunate because Kerry is a donor recruitment manager with the Red Cross locally. And today we're going to be talking about donating blood, how blood is donated, and what uses blood is put to. So Kerry has some statistics for us. We're going to talk about the who, what, when, where, why of blood drives. And then a little bit closer to home, we're going to be talking about how our viewers can also get involved in donating blood, and we're going to put out a challenge to our viewers before the end of the program. Right, Kerry?
You got it.
Okay. So, Kerry, I know you have some interesting statistics. We have some slides here with some interesting information that I think you'd like to share with our viewers. So maybe we can have slide 2. We can start with slide 2. So for the control room, could you please put up slide 2?
Right, well, so you mentioned about Red Cross and people knowing the Red Cross for blood drives. What this slide talks to just a little bit is some of those other areas in the Red Cross that are equally as important, like our disaster recovery, about how many lives we've actually touched through that. Basically, every 60 seconds, 53 people are assisted by the American Red Cross, whether it's through blood donations, through our help through the military, through disaster recovery, through our CPR classes, things like immunizations that we provide worldwide. So this is just a slide to let you know that indeed we are all about our blood drives, but we are an organization that is really meant to partner in many, many areas to stop human suffering.
So even though we're just going to be talking about blood drives today, the Red Cross is involved in a lot of different areas, a lot of different humanitarian efforts and community serving endeavors.
That's right.
Okay. So let's see. Let's put up slide number 3 for you, Kerry, and you can talk to that slide.
So what I like to make sure I help to educate as part of my role. It's one thing to go and have blood drives, but it's important, I think, for people to understand why we need to attend and why we need to have blood drives. At any given time out of the population, 30 to 35% is our only eligible pool of people who can actually donate. There's so many reasons people can't donate. They're sick, pregnant, they've traveled, many, many reasons. Out of that pool of 30%, locally, pretty much on the North Shore, but specifically to Beverly, we're not really getting a 3% of our population showing up for blood drives. Opportunity is huge to help save lives, but people have to keep in mind that blood's perishable. Blood lasts about 42 days on the shelf, so we need consistent donor turnout at our blood drives to make sure that we have blood available to patients when and where they need it. I think sometimes the general population forgets the only way blood can get to a donor is through a voluntary donation like the blood drives we have in the community.
Right.
You can't buy blood, can't make blood.
Can't make blood.
I don't think we're using any pig blood anywhere. So it's just a matter of fact of keeping in mind that blood can only get to patients through voluntary donations. The statistics are that 1 out of every 3 people will need blood or a blood product in their lifetime. So I'm sure in everybody's short group of family and friends, they would probably know someone whose life has been affected, hopefully saved, by the availability of blood product. Mm-hmm. 1 unit of blood, which is about a pint of blood, a little more than our cups here on the table, that product goes on to save up to 3 lives. We take a unit of blood and separate it into the 3 products: red blood cells, plasma, and platelets. Red blood cells are what go to the shelves to save individuals' trauma situations. Platelets are predominantly used with cancer patients, and then the plasma goes to burn victims. Mm-hmm. So every person's single donation can go on to save up to 3 lives. Pretty impactful, I think. Every 2 seconds, someone in the country needs blood. So by knowing that 1 out of 3 people need blood in their lifetime, every 2 seconds somebody needs blood, blood's perishable. Blood can only come from voluntary donations, and because we need more of the population to help us out with this, are really important reasons to remember why we have these blood drives.
Right. And I think that our audience should really, if there's one thing they should come away with, and that is to realize that blood does have a shelf life.
That's right.
That you can't store it, even no matter how cold you freeze it, what kind of environment you put it in, it is perishable and it does have a shelf life. So blood donors are always needed on an ongoing basis.
Right. We don't usually say it's an urgent need. We did have some of that situation earlier through January as we come off of the month of December. Donor turnout is low. But then there were the storms from the south, D.C., and people forget there were no blood drives happening. So we were in what we call an urgent situation. Aside from those extreme situations, the need for blood is constant, especially because we have a lower turnout of population in communities like Beverly. Consistently, we need blood drives that bring us 30, 40, maybe 50 units of blood, but we need those on an ongoing basis because that need is consistent.
Right. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we issue our challenge, right?
Right.
Right, Kerry? So now, you want to talk about anything else on that slide you want to talk about?
Right, so I don't know, Walt, if you know this, a lot of people take a guess, and I've asked this question a lot. The number one reason why people haven't donated blood.
And what is it?
Nobody asked them to. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as getting people to be aware and ask them, can you help save lives?
Yeah. And are we going to talk a little bit about the need or for blood?
Yeah, we touched on quite a bit of that already, but some of the things that are on that slide number 4.
Slide number 4, yeah.
Just to make sure that's beyond, accidents and events like a Boston Marathon bombing, of course, but, just mothers giving childbirth, premature babies, open heart surgeries, hip replacements, cancer patients, cancer surgeries, leukemia, sickle cell disease. That list kind of goes on, and as you can see why 1 out of 3 people may be impacted.
Right. Now you're going to talk a little bit about what you call the multiplier effect here. So tell us what the multiplier effect is and how that figures into donating blood.
Sure. So at any point in time, whether you are just able to come and help us out by donating, or you're able to help us out by sponsoring a blood drive, for every donor that you come in, you have to remember that that's multiplied times 3 as far as how many lives they're saving. So I know in some of the Beverly drives coming up, if we do have 30 donors show up and we get 30 units of blood, that's actually multiplied out. We're saving up to 90 lives. So every time we have a blood drive, every time somebody donates blood, they have to remember that they're saving up to 3 lives. So every person, you ask, well, every person we might convince today to come in is helping to that multiplier effect. The more we ask, the more it's multiplied 3 times out.
Okay. And if our audience is unsure right now, we are asking, and we're going to be asking till the end of the program. And with that, we want to talk a little bit closer to home here, how easy the process is of giving blood. And we're going to follow my own experience. I donated blood at Waring School on February 19th recently.
Thank you.
And what I did is I was able to sign up online, and then after I signed up online, all I did was show up at the facility at my assigned time, and I checked in. And we have a little video of the time as I checked in with the folks here at the Waring School. So if we could play that video of me checking in.
Awesome.
My name is Kosmowski Walter. I'm here to give blood.
Okay, do you have a donor card?
I don't have a donor card, no. Will I get one? Will I need an ID?
No. Can we see just an ID?
An ID, okay. So the driver's license should do.
What time is it for?
3 o'clock. Kosmowski.
Oh, found it.
Found it? Okay.
Is this your first time donating?
No, but the last time was many years ago. So.
That's okay. You've donated before, so you get a red sticker.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
And so now what time is it? Okay, and then here's your sticker.
Put that on?
Yeah.
Oh, there, I'm official.
And if you haven't donated in a while, you get your grade.
I have to read this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll sit down over there and read that, and then somebody will call
And then we'll
me.
call your number. Oh, your number, which is 32.
My number's 32. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. So as I approached the registration line, I simply had to verify my identity by giving them a driver's license with my picture on it. And then they gave me some materials. You saw I had the materials in my hand to read before I actually started the process, and they gave me a number, which the helpers and the various volunteers would call out. So what is in that packet of materials that they gave me to read, Valerie? Explain that to our audience.
So one of the things everything that the Red Cross does is very much mandated and compliance regulated by the federal government. It's all about making sure our donors have a really good experience and making sure that we are able to have the most safe blood supply possible. That packet is a bunch of information for you as a donor to make sure you understand what the process is, what happens, as well as any situations in there, any circumstances by which you may not be eligible to donate that particular day.
Right. Now, I also had a chance to speak with a lady named Jan Lindsay, and she's the school nurse at the Waring School. And one of the other aspects of donating blood is locations where people can, sites that have been volunteered by organizations. So this is a little conversation I had with Jan Lindsay, who's a school nurse there, talking about how she got involved as being a site for a blood drive. So let's watch that. And I'm here at the Waring School. We're in the school auditorium, and I have just checked in to give blood, and I'm here with
Jan Lindsay.
And Jan Lindsay, and you are the school nurse?
Yeah, I'm a school nurse and I teach health.
And you teach health. And this is the venue for, today is February 19th, right? And there is a blood drive going on at the Waring School today. And how is it that the Waring School, how did you become involved with this, Jan?
I just thought it would be a really great idea to get kids started at a young age and make giving blood feel natural and normal, and as a nurse, I think it's very easy for kids to feel frightened of things like needles. And it's also very easy for them to feel insulated from a blood drive in general. And this is a super easy way to let kids feel like they're taking part in a whole community where they can help people.
Well, kids aren't the only ones afraid of needles. I don't happen to be, but I know some adults that are.
True.
But anyway, I have checked in earlier at the front door, and my number is 32. I heard number 30 called a few minutes ago. So once they call me, they'll be doing an evaluation. What's going to happen once they call me and they're going to talk to me?
Yeah, so I think they're going to go over the questions that you answered and make sure that you're healthy.
Right.
And that you aren't bringing in any risky components in your blood by answering those questions. They're just going to confirm that that's the case. They're going to do a mini physical, they'll take some vital signs, make sure you're healthy today, and then they'll pass you along to one of the phlebotomists.
The phlebotomists?
Yeah.
And I happen to know what that word means. Oh. That's somebody who draws blood.
Absolutely. Did you go to medical school?
I did not, but I spent a lot of time with the dictionary, you know. When we go up north, those cold winter nights up in the cabins, you know, nothing to do. So anyway, Jan, thank you very much for that. And I will be waiting till I hear my number, 32, and go up and get my medical history and answer a few questions and hopefully give some blood today. So now when they called my number, I was taken over to a secure area, and it was for filling out a confidential questionnaire. And Kerry, maybe you can explain exactly what that questionnaire does. I know that it helps to assess any risk factors for the blood pool that I'm donating to, and also any risk factors for myself. So explain what kind of questions and what happens during that confidential questionnaire.
So the questionnaire, again, as you mentioned, definitely to keep the donor to have a good experience and to keep that blood supply safe. The questions are confidential. We take you over to a confidential, what we call health history. Behind that health history, in addition to those questions, we're going to check your vital signs, your blood pressure, your pulse, your temperature, and your iron levels. Those are to make sure that you're in a healthy, strong position to donate blood that day. The questions, which are confidential, so I can't really get into them too much, but there are travel, lifestyle choices, things along those lines, things that may defer you from being able to donate that day.
Right.
One of the things I do want to mention, and which is somewhat newer with the Red Cross, some people might not be aware of this yet, towards the end of last year we introduced what we call our Rapid Pass. So although traditionally you would come into the blood drive and have to read that pamphlet, then go behind the health history and do all those questions, you now have the ability on the day of the drive to do all that from your home, from your office, at your own PC or laptop, comfortably, confidentially, doing all those questions. At the end, you'd get a confirmation that you either print out or send to your phone. And the good part about that is if for some reason you're deferred, you've traveled or some other reason, some medication, you wouldn't even have to come down to the drive. So A, people are enjoying it because it's a big time saver for them up front. But then when you come to the drive, you actually save time while you're there because you're not having to do that reading and do all those questions. We do allow people to come in both ways, so if you don't have access to a PC, it's still fine. You can come and do that reading. However, alternately, you have an opportunity to do that up front.
Right. And the primary reason for the confidential questionnaire is to protect the integrity of your blood supply.
That's
to
correct.
see any of these risk factors that, because of where I've traveled or lifestyle choices. And I know some of them have to do with my blood pressure. They took the blood pressure and so forth. And the hemoglobin count had to be a certain level because from my high school chemistry, I know that that's the protein molecule that carries the oxygen. And so that's the main purpose of our blood, is to oxygenate our entire body. So now I think what the next little video we had during my experience was me getting prepped. So explain, we'll ask them to roll this, and maybe you can explain what is happening now, or I think we have some audio on this. So let's show that. Me being prepped and laying on the table getting ready to have the IV inserted in my arm. I'm being prepped to give blood. I'm B positive. I have a hemoglobin content of 14.1. It has to be at least 12.9, Rosa?
12.5.
It's got to be 12.5 to be acceptable to allow you to give blood. And that's a number that actually can vary from day to day, week to week, depending upon your diet, hemoglobin, meats, green vegetables are things that are rich in hemoglobin. And yeah, that was me there, and I did donate the blood. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of points with you, Kerry. I mentioned earlier that about volunteers. The staff that actually does the blood drawing and all the people kind of behind the processing part are really paid staff. And the folks that are checking you in may be volunteers. Can you clarify that for us?
Sure. So to that specifically, in order to have a successful drive, we do need some volunteers to help us. And that's when we ask organizations to help with the registration, getting you checked in, as well as what we call our canteen, which is where, again, government regulated, that you sit, have a drink and a snack, so we can keep our eyes on you, make sure you feel well after the donation. That's where we also like to have a couple volunteers. Otherwise, we do have a staff of trained phlebotomists, again, driven by a lot of FDA and government regulations to be compliant on the entire procedure. You can feel safe. That is the safest, most succinct process out there for blood collecting. So anybody who might be a little worried of safety, it's absolutely well controlled and compliant to every strict standard that the government puts out there.
Now, in case folks have a question, what is the minimum age for donating blood? Tell us about that.
Donation age is 16, but they do need a permission slip, parent, parental, guardian permission slip, and at 17, it's donor choice. There are some height and weight requirements if you're under 19, but predominantly when I'm working with the high schools, we have a pre-qualification on that, and we get a lot of donors 16, 17, and 18.
Okay. Now, we're going to put up a few bits of contact information here. So there is a website. Let's put the website up so that if you do want to donate blood and want to go through the process and get checked in, this is www.redcrossblood.org. And there is also a phone number where you can get more information about upcoming drives. And let's see that, 1-800-733-2767. And we do have also a list of 3 upcoming, as we sit here, today is March 8th. And so we're going to show our viewers the next 3 upcoming blood drives in this immediate area. So let's take a look at the first one coming up, I believe, March 25th. So this one is Beverly Hospital at 85 Herrick Street, and that will be a blood drive on March 25th. And the next one, April 9th at the Centerville Improvement Society on Essex Street, and another one May 15th at Beverly Cove Community Center, 19 East Corning Street. Now, there will be blood drives after this, of course. These are the 3 upcoming ones that are right here in Beverly. And I would like to mention that BevCam will be assisting the Red Cross, and we will be running PSAs, public service announcements on BevCam, during the course of these blood drives to remind people when these blood drives are occurring. And
if I might just real quick,
please.
For those blood drives that are coming up, we highly, highly encourage you schedule an appointment in advance. A couple of good things about that is that you will, via email, get a reminder notice from the Red Cross with that link to that rapid pass. By scheduling time in advance, it absolutely will minimize the time and your wait times being there. So through that website, through the 800 number or our blood app, you can schedule those appointments in advance for any of those locations. You search by zip code.
Okay. And now I'd like to have you remind us again, you mentioned some of the statistics on the number of donors in our area here. Can you repeat those again and maybe tell us what kind of results maybe you're looking for?
Sure thing. My statistics are from a little over a year ago. Some of the city's population and things are slightly dated, but it's very relevant. In 2015, Beverly had a donor count of 690. That's awesome. That means 690 units of blood were collected from Beverly citizens. So what does that mean? We saved just over 2,000 lives. It's pretty good. But when I look at the number, it's really not even 2.5% of our population here. And we have well over 30,000, and this is where my data might be a little bit, I think we're now closer to 40,000 residents.
We are 40,000.
So that
yes.
percentage kind of even creeps down lower. If we were to add just a 1% increase in population, like another 300 donors, that's going to save over 3,000 lives. So talk about that multiplier effect, right?
Right.
Just that tiny bit more interest and participation is going to help us get there. So I have been invited here to make sure that not only are we asking people to donate, but come up with other ways that we can help increase that participation.
Right. Now, also, I'd like the control room to show a couple of, we've had a couple of the Beverly High School students participate with us in creating some kind of tongue-in-cheek public service announcements, video announcements that they'll be seeing on BevCam here. And this is featuring the Count and Countess Dracula. So let's take a look at a couple of those.
These blood drives are such charming events.
Ah, you meet so many different types. We should grab a nice Be Positive. It goes great with dessert.
Great idea, my darling.
So a little bit of humor there with the Count and Countess Dracula. So our viewers will be seeing them featured in some of our public service announcements.
Terrific work. Terrific work. Thank you.
Yes, and as long as we're talking about young folks, how can young people become involved in these sorts of blood donation and blood drive projects?
You know, what we really enjoy getting young people involved. They're our future blood donors. We get them involved now, both in understanding how important it is and making sure that they have a good experience. High schools are one of the main reasons we're able to keep blood supplies stable here in eastern Massachusetts. But one of the greatest programs we have available, if you know any students out there who would like to get involved, yes, they're helping to save lives, and they certainly can get their community service hours, but they have some opportunities to win some scholarship money and just some cash for helping out. It's called our Leaders Save Lives program. This is where a student, high school or college student, in the summer months, so these are months where we have a more difficult time keeping that blood supply steady, students are able to run a blood drive on their own, getting their friends, getting their family to show up and participate. So if anybody ever wants to do that, they can look for more information at our website as well.
Okay, so I think in closing, There are anything else that you want to mention about the Red Cross, about blood drives in closing?
I don't.
Kerry?
I'm so glad that Beverly is going to kind of step up and see how we can save more lives. In as much as running a blood drive is helping us to sponsor the blood drive, helping us to spread the word. So just want to keep that momentum going so we can continue our increase in donors.
All right. So this is our challenge to our viewers out there in Beverly. We want to see that 2.25–2.5% participation in Beverly go up, so that the Red Cross has a good supply of blood, and that Beverly as a community is showing its involvement in this effort. And remember, blood is perishable. It has a shelf life. And I think we'll end, and we'll show a couple of slides, number 1 and number 9 for the control room, please, if you could show those 2 slides. So I just want to remind our viewers that you have been watching North Shore Journal. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. My guest today has been Kerry Valery from the American Red Cross, and we've been talking about blood drives and blood donation. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.